it's good to see everyone. Good to enjoy this nice weather. Can't believe we're second week of November. In fact, I thought I saw on the Weather Channel on the snowflake on Wednesday. Anyone see that? Huh? What's that? No. It's going to be a crazy week. But it's good to see everyone. Right around the corner, Thanksgiving is coming along. Hopefully that the month of November can bring you some thankfulness. It's always good to be thankful. And I know some people on Facebook are putting this thankful every day for like the whole 30 days of November. Hopefully you guys can be thankful of something. For me, I'm thankful for the church, my family, and all the things that God has provided my family and I. I'm very thankful. I'm very thankful that that God is good. And even in the bad times, God is good, and I'm thankful for that. And so hopefully that today you'll be thankful that you guys are here, and that you'll be thankful, and throughout the week and throughout your life. Speaking of that, we are in the series of Revelation. Peter did a magnificent job last week. It was really good. And the more I try to look at Revelation, the more I'm getting confused. It's really hard. It's a really hard book. And for me, I'm the type of person that believes in Revelation literally, take it literally. I know there's a lot of views on sometimes people take it literally, some people take it like symbolism. But regardless, I hope, like what Peter said last week, and what I believe too, is that when you hear and when you listen to the sermons, especially Revelation, I challenge you to go and study on your own, study and read the book of Revelation, and ask God for wisdom too. And like Peter said too last week, research the commentaries and things like that. Because Revelation is a hard book, and it's a book that can be easily misinterpreted. So hopefully God will use me and other speakers that will be speaking on Revelation and give us good wisdom. Pray for us, and we'll do some of your own study as well. All right, so with that, let's open in Revelation chapter 5. Revelation chapter 5. So we're going to try to do a chapter of Revelation every week. So Revelation chapter 5. I'm just going to take the first 7 verses, and hopefully we can get what Revelation is trying to say to us in the first 7 verses. So if you have the Word, if you have Bibles, once again, turn to Revelation chapter 5. You're going to read through 1 through 7. And this is what the Word of the Lord says. Then I saw at the right hand of him who was seated on the throne a scroll written within on the back, sealed with 7 seals. And I saw a strong angel proclaiming with a loud voice, "Who is worthy to open the scroll and break its seals?" And no one in heaven or on earth or under the earth was able to open the scroll or to look into it. And I began to weep loudly because no one was found worthy to open the scroll or to look into it. And one of the elders said to me, "Weep no more. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has conquered, so that he can open the scroll and its 7 seals." And between the throne and the 4 living creatures and among the elders I saw a lamb standing as though he had been slain, with 7 horns and 7 eyes, which were the 7 spirits of God sent out into all the earth. And he went and took the scroll from the right hand of him who was seated on the throne. Once again, let me take time to open a word of prayer. Lord Father, I pray once again as we are looking into this chapter, Lord, and you use me, and you help me to speak words of truth. Father, I pray that your message will come across today, Father. We thank you, Lord, and be with our service. In your name, amen. So as we enter the 5th chapter of Revelation, once again, let me just kind of give you a little thing of last week as Peter preached. In chapter 4, we see John get caught up into heaven. And when he arrives, he sees God himself sitting on a glorious throne. And we see that he had these awesome pictures. You see that God's throne and all the imagery of it is such a beautiful, beautiful look. And we see that all the people are praising God. And kind of have to understand that in the format of it, it's sort of like a courtroom display. And you see, what was aspiring was that God was preparing to unleash His wrath upon the inhabitants of the earth. In the midst of this scene, like I said, we see the people praising Jehovah. You see, the reason why they're praising is because they knew and they began to understand what the Lord was about to do. And all the people in heaven were praising His glory, His power, and His creation. They were acknowledging His right to judge the earth. You see, I think John was taken up to heaven to give a heavenly perspective of what's about to happen to earth. I think a lot of times when we are here on this earth, when we look at through the earth eyes and earth view of things, we can be filled with fear, doubt, and confusion. Most of us have that fear, doubt, and confusion about Revelation. We see and hear the stories and see the things that are about to happen in the near future, and we get kind of fearful, we get kind of confused. So I think John was taken up to heaven to see through the eyes of heaven. And when we see through the things of the eyes of heaven, I'm telling you, everything will make sense. So once again, chapter 4 ends with God receiving the praise. Now we get here to chapter 5. We come in and see chapter 5 where the people have stopped praising. Everybody is waiting. Everybody is starting to be serious about business. What's going to happen? And what we're about to find out in this chapter is that Jesus is the center of attention. You see, I believe heaven will be a glorious and wonderful place. We are told that the heavens will have streets of gold, walls of jasper, gates of pearl, and more glory than you and I can ever imagine. We're going to see people of the greats like Moses, Paul, Abraham. But I'm telling you, when we get to heaven, the main attraction will be Jesus Christ. And in this passage, we see Him glorified and exalted. As we continue, as we see in verse 1, we see there's something unusual. We see God on the throne, and we see in His hand what looks like a book. But this is not no ordinary book. It's actually what we call a scroll. In His hand, He's holding a scroll. Now, some of you might know a scroll. It's a paper with long sheets. And back in the day, it used to be written and used to be rolled up. Every time I think of a scroll now, I think of, anybody have a guess that? When I think about a scroll, you know what I think of? What is it? Kung Fu Panda. They get it. Oh. I think of Kung Fu Panda. You remember there was a scroll on top of the
dragon scroll.
Dragon scroll, right? And no one was able to touch it. No one was able to see it. Only the one that was chose to be the chosen one was the one that was able to receive that scroll. I don't know why. I just have that idea. When I think about a scroll, I think about that. But we come away from the attention of chapter 4 of the throne to now the chapter 5 of the scroll. You see, this scroll, I just want to give you a little bit of the scroll. There was a scroll that was written inside and on the outside. It was written inside and on the back. See, this was a very unusual scroll because most of the times it was not a common practice when you're writing on a scroll to be writing it on the inside and on the outside. But this scroll had writings on the inside and on the outside of the scroll. So usually what this probably meant was that there was so much information that was needed to be on this, that's why it was on both sides. We know that ancient scrolls were meant to be read horizontally and not vertically. In fact, one of the commentaries said that if the book of Revelation was written on a scroll, it would be about 15 feet long. Can you imagine trying to read all on English? Another thing that was interesting, that not only was it written on the inside and the outside, but they had 7 seals seven seals that sealed it. And when we know that, in the ancient time, when you write something on a scroll and you wrote it, they always put a string on it, and they'll seal it with a wax, and they'll put like a mark on it. Well, this scroll had 7 seals on this scroll. And what we have to realize, it's not 7 separate scrolls either. It was one scroll with 7 seals on it. And the only way it was able to be read was if you had to break the seal. So I was reading this and I was wondering, what kind of things would this scroll have? What kind of information was written in this scroll? Well, there are several ideas that are out there, and there's some of these commentaries that I read, and here's some of the ideas of what was written in the scroll. One of them was that some thought that it was the Old Testament, or the Old Testament and the New Testament together, and it was all about the fulfilling of the prophecies. Another commentary says some thought that the scroll was God's claim of divorce against Israel, so like the divorce papers. He was going to divorce from Israel. Some thought that this scroll was a sentence against the enemies of the church. Another thought that this scroll was the textbook of the book of Revelation. But then the last one that I read, and I felt this is the one that is true to me, and the one that I think this is the most common sense one, is that this scroll was about God's will, His final settlement of the affairs of the universe. It was God's will and His final settlement of the affairs of the universe. You see, commentator John MacArthur, he says this is his quote: "There is an official legal document. In this case, 7 seals indicates that it was the will and testament. In fact, that is what it is. It is God's will and testament. It is the title deed. It is the title deed really to the universe. And God has the ownership, and He is passing it to His heir, to His rightful heir, to take possession of what it is, of what is His. The details of the insight unfold from chapter 6 and on. And you will see next week, starting from chapter 6 all the way to chapter 9, the things that are in this scroll. And from chapter 6 to chapter 19, you will see a lot of crazy things. And it's going to be hopefully, like I said, it's going to be exciting. Hopefully that you won't take it as something that's fearful. Let's not try to look at it through the earthly ways, but try to look at it through heaven's eyes. So, once this scroll was brought out, there's this mass search now. There's a search for this person who can open this scroll. As an angel in verse 2 says, "Who is worthy to open this book?" Basically, he was probably saying, the angel was saying, who is morally fit to read the text of the scroll and to carry out all the necessary things to redeem the earth? Notice the angel didn't say who is willing to open the scroll. Because I think there's a lot of people who are willing. When you think about conquerors of the world, people who are willing to use it for their own glory, or use it for their own. Can you imagine, if someone, the wrong person, getting a hold of that scroll and being able to do and basically have that power? It could be really devastating. I'm thinking of people like Alexander the Great. We know through history that he almost conquered the whole world by the age of 33. They say that he wept. He wept because there was no more lands to conquer. Right? But we know Nebuchadnezzar himself was a great ruler. We know Julius Caesar, Napoleon, Charlemagne, all these great leaders, all these great conquerors. But yet, none of them could even come close to be worthy of opening the scroll. And it says there that the heavens, they began to search from everywhere in heaven, everywhere in the earth, in between, and even below the earth. They were looking for that one person that will be able to open the scroll. And they could not find one worthy person. No saints, not even Abraham, not even Moses, not even David were found worthy to open. Not even Gabriel, not even Michael. The angels were worthy to open the scroll. And I'm thinking that no one living on this earth, no king, no president, no ruler, no billionaire, no politician, no scientist, no preacher, no one was worthy to open this scroll. No one in hell, no demons, no doomed sinner, not even Satan himself was worthy to open this scroll. And then we see in verse 4, because they're searching, who can open this scroll? Who can open the will of God? And we see in verse 4, something that is very rare. Probably the first time you'll ever see, the last time you ever see. Can anybody point out what it was? What do you think happened that you will never see again? And probably only happened once ever. There was tears in heaven. Not every clapping. But there was tears in heaven. Look at what John was bursting out with tears. He was crying. You see, when tear, there's two words in the New Testament when they refer to tears. The one time that we see a tear or wept is in John chapter 11, verse 35, when Jesus wept. Jesus wept. Why? Because his friend Lazarus, he cried over his friend. And this type of there's two references to crying. The first one was it's like a silent weeping. Right? It's one of those things where sometimes when you cry, it's not something like you over emotionally just kind of crying. A silent weeping. And then once again there's another one in Luke chapter 19 verse 41 where Jesus was looking over Jerusalem and he wept again. Now this is referred to an uncontrollable sobbing. Meaning, that time when you're a little kid and when you did something wrong or something happened and you're crying and you can't stop. Your parents stop crying. You just can't you can't control it. But this is the exact same John weeping was. He was sobbing. He was crying. He just could not control it. He was probably yelling. Why? He was crying. Why was he crying? Why do you think he was crying? Why was this crying so unstoppable? Because John knew what this book represented. The reason why John was weeping so much because he knew if no one can open this scroll, if no one can open this book, then creation, all of humanity will be doomed forever to the sin, to eternity. You see, John was weeping because he said, if no one is going to open this scroll, we are doomed for the rest of eternity. From the time of Eden, all the sin, from then to now to the future, John was crying, not for himself, but he was weeping for all of us. He was crying, saying, how could this be? And as he was crying, we see in verse 5, we see an elder come. He talks and he points to John and says, weep not, behold. He says, weep not and behold. And he points to Jesus. You see, that weep not behold, it's probably been preached for over 2,000 years. That weep not behold basically signifies that Jesus is the solution. For over 2,000 years and plus more years up to come, Jesus is the solution to everything. What the elder was saying is, weep not, look to Jesus, and He will meet your need. And he begins to say, the elder tells John, look, weep not, behold. Look, and he points out, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, hath prevailed. So when John heard the title, Lion of the tribe of Judah, he immediately knew who the elder was referring to, and that was the Messiah. Because in Genesis chapter 49, verse 8 through 10, look at what it says. It says, Judah, your brothers will praise you. Your enemies were brought under your control. Your father's son will bow down to you. Judah, you are like a lion's cub. You return from hunting my son. Like a lion, you lie down and sleep. You are like a mother's lion. Who dares to wake you up? You see, for the longest time, the Jews were promised a great ruler that will arise out of Judah. Like a lion, he will be a powerful, strong, brave, majestic, and that he will be a mighty conqueror. And we know the story. We know that the Jews were misled. When they first saw Jesus, they thought that he was the Savior. And immediately they crucified him. Why? Because they thought they were looking for someone that was going to overturn Roman Empire. But Jesus was not that. And the elder said that he is from the root of David, coming from the line of David, King David, the rightful owner of the throne, the one who has the power behind the throne. So the elder goes, look, the line of the tribe of Judah, the root of David. But can you imagine while you're weeping and you're sitting there thinking that all humanity is lost? And an elder taps you and says, look, there is the line of Judah, the root of David. And can you imagine just hearing, that's right, the mighty conqueror, the mighty warrior, the brave, majestic, courageous King of all kings. And he's getting he's getting the emotional, like, that's right, he is my God. He is the one who's going to be the conquering one. And he turns around. And guess what he sees? Guess what John sees? In verse 6. He sees there a lamb that has been slain. See, the word lamb here means a little lamb, a pet lamb. When John looked, he was expecting to see a great, powerful lion. But yet, when he turned around, he saw a little pet lamb. You see, what we have to understand, you have to kind of go back in the Old Testament, Exodus chapter 12. And we are here, and we see that God instructs the people of Israel to select a perfect lamb, one without blemish and without spot. And the thing about this that was crazy was they were to take this lamb. And some of you might just probably read it, probably heard, but did you know back in the custom, they were supposed to take this lamb that was spotless, without any blemishes, and they were to take it into their home and to take care of it. They were to take care of this lamb. They were instructed to do this in the beginning of the first month. And on the 14th day, they were supposed to sacrifice. They had to take this lamb in their house for 14 days. A little young lamb. And when told, they were immediately to sacrifice that lamb, to roast its little body and eat it. Now, I don't know about you, for 14 days of taking care of an animal, you're going to get some type of love from an animal. I mean, even the little goldfish, when it dies, some of us are like, oh, my goldfish died. You have that sense of guilt. Even if you bought that goldfish and get it, I don't think I ever had a fish last more than 5 days. I don't know what I'm doing, right? I don't know why it keeps dying. But when it dies, I'm not, any like, perfect person cannot be cruel. You can't be like, oh, well. I mean, you're like, oh, man, my fish died. And then, I'm thinking to myself, my dog, I know, Binksy, I know he's been with us for about 4 years. If I knew that next year that there was a day of dog sacrifice and I had to sacrifice my dog, I'll be hurt. I'll be sad. But see, this is the symbolism that God was trying to say. They brought in this lamb. Can you imagine the kids, the Israel kids, like, oh, we got a pet lamb, yay! And then, they're probably petting the lamb. After 14 days, they're eating dinner, like, what happened to pet lamb? They're eating it. I mean, can you imagine? Why did God want to show that? Why did he do this? Because it's the very fact, the same symbolism of how God had to do with Jesus Christ. You see, Jesus is called the Lamb. You see, Jesus was with God. You see, Jesus was Son of God. He was with God from the beginning. You see, a lot of people might think that Jesus was just, born and okay, that he wasn't around those. Jesus was with God from the creation. And until the birth, and until he died, he was with God and is God. And can you imagine the agony? And can you imagine the sorrow? Can you imagine the pain that God must have felt, by giving his lamb to die, to sacrifice? For who? For who? People who reject him. People who make fun of him. People who could care less about Jesus. People who claim to know Christ, but don't live for him. People who are stuck in their comfortable zone and not doing anything. People who should be doing this but are not. And God gave his son, his lamb, to us. But it had to be done. Because it was on the cross that heaven won the greatest victory of all time, in eternity. And the picture that shows us when John turned around to see a lamb, when you think about it, the humbleness of our God is far more greater than any strong military. I mean, when you think about the battle, that you would think that Satan has all this army, has this mass army, and he's waiting to conquer. He's waiting to go into battle with God, and he's like throwing out this thing that, "Come on, God, let's fight." And yet God comes out here. You want to fight? Here's my little lamb. My lamb is going to fight for me. Can you imagine? What? A little puny lamb? Okay, that's fine. The man gets slaughtered. Satan's enemies rejoicing. They're saying, "We won the battle. We have victory." And that lamb dies for 3 days. And when it awakes, it becomes a lion. And ready for its day, once and for all. Put away the enemies. Put away Satan. And lock him up forever. And these are the things that we're seeing. These are the things that are transpiring. These are the things that John sees. This is the reason why John is weeping. And this is the reason why the heavens and earth are searching for that one person, that worthy person to open this scroll. And it was Jesus. Not Jesus the conqueror. Not Jesus the powerful. But Jesus the humble. Jesus the lamb. You see, it was Jesus who found victory on the Mount of Temptation. He found victory over it. And Satan, probably thought that Jesus would fall. And he was tempting Jesus to make bread and jump off the cliff. But Jesus withheld, and he found victory over it. It was the victory that Jesus had at the Garden of Gethsemane. When he was saying, "Lord, do I need to do this?" And God said, "This is my will." And he said, "This is your will. I will do it." And he found victory over that. You see, it was the victory on the cross. Far more than his word. I mean, when you think about the words, when you think about the beginning of creation, when God said, and Jesus said, "Let there be." Let there be. That's a very powerful statement, isn't it? Because when that first word that God spoke, "Let there be," immediately everything came into existence. But more important, more value is what Jesus said on the cross. It was finished. When he said it was finished, it has more power than the words that he said, "Let there be." You see, on that cross, he exemplified victory. And when he rose from the dead, is when Satan knew that he has lost his victory. That is why we see, that is why we know Satan is doing everything he can before the day that he dies, before the day that he is shunned from all eternity, is to drag as much people as he can with him. It is why that his main objective and goal is to have, knowing that Christians who already gave their life to Christ, that the main thing that Satan is going to do is, okay, if I can get them to go to hell with me, at least I'm going to make their life miserable and have them be separated from the love of God. And that's what Satan does, is that he comes to those Christians and make and present things so that you will become weak, so that you will fall into temptation, so that you will sometimes even doubt your salvation. And he will do these things so that you will not have closeness, that you will not have a relationship, because that's the one thing that God wants, is a relationship with you. And to break that relationship, he knows that God is going to be in pain and in sorrow. And this is what Satan is on the loose for. And this is what he does. He can care less about the non-believers. He cares about a Christian whose life is on the right path. It's funny when you think about the Lamb. When you look at every nation, they always choose a strong symbol. When you look, like Great Britain, you know what the symbol of Great Britain is? It's a lion. What about Russia? And the symbol of Russia is? Bear. What about the United States?
Eagle.
Yes, the bald eagle. Someone says, what's heaven's symbol? It's the Lamb. It's the Lamb. The symbol of the Lamb is a symbol of meekness, submission, and gentleness. Meekness, submission, and gentleness. And I say it again, that Jesus conquered Satan's kingdom, not by military might, but by through his meekness, compassion, love, and submission. And isn't that what he requires of all of us? Isn't that what he requires that all of us do as believers? That we don't retaliate, that we don't go out of our way to get revenge, do all these bad things to other people. Doesn't he require all of us to love one another? Isn't that what Christ wants from all of us as believers? To love one another with compassion, with meekness. When you think about Jesus and being the Lamb, it should bring chills to us that how Jesus right now is sitting above the right hand of God. We know that he's not in some tomb rotting away. We know that he's not still nailed on that cross, but he is in heaven waiting to come back. Waiting for his turn to come and take the saints with him and to go into battle. And as you see this Lamb has 7 eyes. I just want to represent what these eyes were. The 7 eyes on this Lamb, it's like the all-knowing Lamb, the omnipresent, omniscient Lamb. You see, this is referring to Isaiah chapter 11, verse 2. If you look at Isaiah chapter 11, verse 2, it describes the sevenfold ministry of the Spirit. And it says in verse 2 that the Spirit is the Lord, the Spirit of wisdom, the Spirit of understanding, the Spirit of the counsel, the Spirit of the strength, the Spirit of the knowledge, and the Spirit of fear. The Spirit, the 7 eyes on this Lamb is upon him. Let me just wrap this whole thing up. Why? The main thing about this whole thing, why the attention in chapter 5 of Jesus, and the one that was worthy to open the scroll, the one that was able to open it. What was it all for? What is this whole thing? Purpose? It's for the redemption of his work. It's about completing the redemptive work that God has. If you look at Revelation chapter 9, verse 10, look what it says. It says, "And they sang a new song, worthy are you to take the scroll and open its seals. For you were slain, and by your blood you ransomed people for God, from every tribe and language and people and nation. And you have made them kingdom and priests of our God, and they shall reign on the earth." You see, when you look at the book of the Revelation, the whole Revelation, it is a book of redemption. What is redemption? It means to be delivered. You see, the whole business of God is delivering people. It's delivering all of us. And he wants, more than anything in this world, for people to be delivered from the bondage of sin. You see, that's the whole reason why Christ came to die on the cross. If you look at Galatians chapter 4, verse 5, it says, "He came to set free those who were under the law." He wanted us to be adopted as children with all the rights that children have. In 1 Peter 1, 18, verse 19, it says, "The blood of Christ set you free from an empty way of life." That way of life was handed down to you by your own people long ago. You know that you are not bought with these things that can pass away like silver and gold. Instead, you were bought by the priceless blood of Christ. He is the perfect Lamb, and he does not have any flaws at all. In 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 19 to 20, he said, "You have been bought with a price." See, when you start to see Revelation, and as it starts to unfold, you will start to see things that are hard to believe. You're going to start seeing things and hearing things and witnessing things that's going to be like, why did God do this? But I'm telling you right now, this is all happening because God is redeeming his work. He's redeeming his work. And his work is in all of us. We have to go out and do what he told us to do. We should not be worried. We should not be fearful. We should not be confused. But just like how the people in heaven, they were praising God. It's kind of ironic. It's kind of weird to think that God's about to unleash the most craziest thing that's happening. Even not right now. We just saw a couple of days ago, but in the Philippines. What's about to be happening to this earth, that has nothing to compare with the things that God is going to do. And yet all these people in heaven are rejoicing. Why? Why would they rejoice in the unleashing of God's wrath? Because redemption is coming. That redemption is that one day we will be delivered. God's people, his children, will no longer have to suffer, will no longer have to be in pain, will no longer have to be stressed out, will no longer have to be bound by the chains of this world. That one day we will be all in heaven, God's people rejoicing. And I'm hoping you will be there with us. And I'm hoping that you will bring as many people as you can. And as we see, starting next week, the flag